Welcome back to New Eyes Open, showing up another day for myself and for you, and encouraging you to show up for yourself, whatever that looks like, however you're called to do so in this season of life. And yesterday in the video, I mentioned, I elaborated on this pattern I had noticed from the past 20 years. It's actually about a 6.5 to 7 year cycle that has gone round and round and round. And one of the things that I mentioned briefly but didn't really dive into is how sometimes when we're called to create and we feel like we're called to share what we've created in the world, we stop because we don't feel ready to be vulnerable and expose ourselves to that extent out in the world. And that is totally valid, but not a reason to not create. So go ahead and create the thing. You don't have to share it. That's the message from yesterday. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit on that because it actually goes back to why I feel called to share publicly in the way that I am right now. Because one of the things that I have learned throughout my experience is, or at least this has been my experience, and there are studies that back it up. Anyways, I'm not going to dive into the studies. Those kind of things, I don't care to bring up too much, and because I'm not debating anyone, this is my lived experience, is that when you have gone through traumatic incidences and especially when they are life altering for yourself and those around you possibly, or just yourself. And trauma it's each person has a unique experience of what that word means, right? So in my experience, when trauma has either been revealed from the deep past that to you up until the moment that somebody else said, do you realize that's actually, abuse or whatever? Or, oh, that explains this pattern I'm seeing in you. It was just part of your lived experience, right? And not necessarily labeled as trauma. But when things like that come to light, and when just, catastrophic events happen or life altering events happen, death of somebody you love, like I just mentioned, like abuse from the past being exposed, abuse from the present being exposed, your whole world getting turned upside down. So many people can relate to this from 2020, like your entire worldview being flipped on its head. In my experience, I lost faith in myself. And so for quite a while, I was like, I don't even know what's real. And I still somewhat hold that stance that I don't know. I'm open to the mystery, but that's the difference. It's a process to get to a point where you are open to the mystery and okay with it. When you think you know how the world works and then you find out you knew nothing of the sort, that is disorienting until you get to this place where you're comfortable with not knowing. And so that in between place is really, I talk to a lot of people in that space. And one of the things that has been true for me, and I've noticed is true for so many people, is this inability to express yourself in the same way that you used to be able to express yourself because you don't want to say the wrong thing. B, you don't want to lead people astray. And really, C, and the main thing is you don't necessarily trust yourself. And so you can't be a vessel just for inspiration to flow through if you're second guessing everything that's trying to flow through you. That blocks it. And so part of this whole showing up for myself process, and the reason it's unscripted and the reason I could care less about SEO and, you know, how many people actually see it, or, I want people to see it because I think this is a lived experience that isn't necessarily talked about as much. But in general, that is not the main reason for these videos. The reason is to trust myself again, to show up and really trust life again, trust divine, trust the inspirational spark of consciousness that wants to flow through all of us, that is flowing through all of us. It just, are we allowing it to actually flow through, or is it getting stuck and stopped up inside of us, which then leads to a whole slew of negative side effects like anxiety and worry and, panic, fear about the future. All these things, a lot of times in my experience, I've noticed they tend to fade away when I am allowing myself to show up, be okay with the unknown, and just allow inspiration to flow through however it wants to flow through in the moment and not second guessing it. When I stop and I start second guessing and trying to, overly plan and strategize things before or even instead of allowing inspiration to flow through when it needs to, that's when it gets stopped up and it starts this downward spiral of anxiety and fear and worry and second guessing yourself on an even deeper level, and on and on and on. And so that's my vulnerable share for today, that really this whole showing up for myself, yes, it's because I felt called to do so, but part of why I felt called to do so is because I've spent enough time actually getting still and quiet and being okay with the unknown in my life, and being okay sitting in the mystery, sitting in the void, and finally allowing myself to just open up and allow the inspiration to flow through me, instead of worrying about, am I good enough? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to hurt somebody with what I say? Is somebody going to debate me on what I say? Who cares? This is my lived experience. And I think sometimes there are those of us, and I actually just had a conversation the other day with someone who speaks truth when it comes to her, and other people don't always like it. And that is another reason. In 2021 time frame, I did start speaking what came through in the moment, and it shocked a lot of people. People took it the wrong way, people that were close to me. And so I felt like I had hurt people that were around me, and I didn't want to hurt other people and honestly, I didn't want to hurt myself, because a lot of times what happened was a reactive lashing back at me, for the truth that I had let just flow through in the moment. And I've gotten to a place now where that's okay. Like, yes, I do try to be kind, but if there is a spark that comes through and needs to be said, it's going to be said now, even if it lands in a way that causes a reactive outburst from someone else. Their reactive outburst is information for them and for me also. It is valid to think about, and refine your message, which once again, that's part of what this whole practice is too, is just speaking what flows through, looking back at it and learning how to refine my message, because then that allows for the inspiration to flow through, but to flow through a cleaner vessel in the future where the words come through with more clarity and land with more power, but in a way that is absorbed well and maybe not pushed away. Or maybe pushed away, and that might be what the other person needs in that moment. And so, yeah, not being scared to speak what you are inspired to say in the moment, if it lands and it wants to powerfully flow through you, even if that, I hate this word, triggers someone else. Anytime you are triggered, that is information for yourself about your own understanding of the world. It is not the person who said the thing that triggered you's problem. It's yours. And learning to look at triggers as my own personal lessons. Okay, like, whoa, I did not like that. I did not like when she said that to me, or when I heard her say that or him say that. That caused an emotional reaction within me. All right, what is the lesson here? What is that trying to teach me? What is my soul trying to teach me through my emotions right now? And not dwelling on that too much, just being open to asking those questions and allowing the emotion to pass through in the moment. And then eventually, a lot of times what happens is days later, I'll let the emotion pass through. 90 seconds is all an emotion needs to truly pass through your body if you allow it without resistance. And if you ask that question, I wonder why him saying that caused that emotional reaction in me. And just allowing that to sit there for a second and then go about your day, which I know is easier said right now than done in the moment, but try your best. And on a walk days later, a lot of times it'll hit me like, oh, when they said that, I reacted because I actually want to say that too, or I actually believe that, but feel like I can't say that for XYZ reason. And so there's a thought. Yeah, but this whole exercise is really about that. It is about me trusting myself, trusting the divine, trusting my creator to just show up, allow myself to just speak what comes through, and look back and refine the message as I go along. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you another day on New Eyes Open. I've got some distractions going on behind me. If this resonated, if you have any questions about this or you want to comment on it, or if it caused an emotional reaction in you that you want to let me know about down below, please do. I welcome your comments. I covet your likes, subscribes, all the things, shares, so that other people can hear this message, but also with the understanding that that is not the point or my goal right now. All right. Until next time, my friend, have a great weekend and be well.